Welcome to Chicago Counterpoint Television. I'm your host, Attorney Jeffrey Loving, and it's a pleasure to be here another Thursday evening. And thank you for inviting us into your homes. It's a great show. It's an honor to be able to host this show, and it's my pleasure to have Sergeant First Class all the way, Attorney James Hagler, retired U.S. Army, here is my guest. Sergeant First Class James Hagler is a brilliant litigator, a lawyer. He received the Award of Merit from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. The U.S. State Department refers very difficult international parental kidnapping cases to him. He has been chosen as a Chicago Best Lawyer. And he received the 2017 Father of the Year Award, and he was personally thanked by our former President Barack Obama, for his tireless work. And I was there when President Obama thanked him, and it was an honor to be there. And I'd like to welcome Attorney Hagler to Chicago Counterpoint.
Well, thank you, Jeffrey, and it's great to be here, and I welcome the opportunity to speak to your listeners tonight and answer any of their questions and hopefully educate them on what fathers can do to protect their rights and to be better fathers and to fulfill their destiny as parents.
And if anybody wants information concerning the Fatherhood Educational Institute, look at your television screen and you'll see the phone number and the website of the Fatherhood Educational Institute, 312-795-9060. The website, fatherhood-edu.org, and it's a great charity. For our first caller, welcome to the show. I'm Attorney Jeffrey Loving, and it's an honor to have Attorney Jim Hagler, a Chicago Best Lawyer, Sergeant First Class, retired, U.S. Army, here as my guest, and actually your guest for the evening.
I have a question. A friend of mine is separated from his wife, and the children are with her, and she's told him that she's going to be moving to Poland. Is there anything he can do about that?
Absolutely, and Attorney Hagler will be glad to respond to your question.
Yes, well, we have a lot of cases where, like in Chicago, people are coming and going, and if they have children and they're going to leave this jurisdiction in the state of Illinois, you have to immediately file in court for an injunction to restrain and enjoin that person from taking those children outside the state of Illinois. If you don't do that and they're gone, it's going to be a lot more difficult to get them back. And under the law, after 6 months, it'll be very difficult to get them back. So judges will readily grant that relief. No one should be hesitant to fight for their rights and go into court and get those children in order to keep them right here. Thank you, caller, and I hope that happens very quickly.
Thank you for calling, and if you want to take a look at the Fatherhood Educational Institute's website, there's a little snapshot of it. And our next caller, you're on the air. Attorney Jeff Loving, and my guest is Attorney James Hagler. What can he do for you this evening?
Yeah, my name's Carson, and I've got an 8-year-old son, and the mother's been using me for an ATM machine for years. The child support is killing me. And I just talked to somebody, and they said that I should talk to an attorney. There's some new rule or some law now in Illinois that she's got to be responsible too. Can you tell me about that?
Well, I can answer that. In July 1st, the law changed in Illinois, and the law became more of an income sharing type of formula rather than straight percentages for child support. Before, it's whatever the father made. If the father's paying child support for one child, it'd be 20% of his net income. For 2 children, it'd be 28. Well, the law's changed. The formula now takes both parties' incomes and comes up with the determination of what these child support should be, considering sharing the expenses of the children, considering how many days that the children live with each parent. So it is a lot more fair to the parent that's paying child support. Having said that, it's not an automatic that law will be applied. There has to be a change in circumstances, like one of the children is emancipated, is no longer subject to child support, or one of the children is living more with the other parent, or one of the parties' income has gone up or down. So there are restrictions, but it's a lot more fairer, and it's supposed to, the intent of it is both parties sort of equally share in the expenses of the child. So it's a great law, and it's just brand new, and there's a lot of controversy going on, but parents should definitely look into that, particularly those that pay child support, consult with an attorney, and determine whether it's a good thing to move it to court and get that law.
So
for your
it
use.
sounds like I should talk to an attorney then.
Yes, sir, you definitely should.
Well, thank you very much. I very much appreciate that. That's good news to me.
Okay, good luck to you, sir.
Thank you for calling. And don't forget, the Fatherhood Educational Institute is a great charity, 312-795-9060. Next caller, you're on the air, Chicago Counterpoint TV. I'm the host, Attorney Jeffrey Leving, and we're very fortunate to have as our guest, our legal commentator tonight, Attorney James Hagler. What can we do for you?
Yeah, I have a question, Mr. Hagler. I've read that you have handled international custody cases, and that has something to do with The Hague. Could you explain what that means, please?
Oh, of course. The Hague Convention is an international treaty which the United States signed back in the 1980s, and there's a lot of other countries, probably 80 countries, that have also signed it. And it's sort of an international treaty to decide if there's custody litigation between two countries where that case occurs. So the United States signed it, and we've handled a lot of cases. There's a lot of countries, particularly out of Chicago. We have Polish cases. We have cases with Mexico. We've had cases with Argentina, Israel, and it goes on and on. So this is a treaty that protects children from being virtually kidnapped from where they've been living and settled in by one parent. And the case provides that the other country which has signed the treaty would order the children to be returned to the country where they were taken from. It's called the Hague Convention, and you can file those cases in federal court, or you can file them in the circuit court. So
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking.
And Jim Hagler is an important person to talk to about these matters. Representatives of the United States State Department did consult with him concerning parental kidnappings on a global basis. I know I was there when it occurred, and it's an honor to have Jim Hagler here. And again, if anybody wants any information on the Fatherhood Educational Institute, look at your TV screen and you'll see the number and the website. The website is fatherhood-edu.org. Fatherhood-edu.org. And I know the U.S. State Department does rely on Attorney Hagler as a resource and has made and does make referrals to him. Next caller. Welcome to Chicago Counterpoint TV. I'm your host, Attorney Leving, and we have Jim Hagler here this evening as our guest, as your guest, as the legal commentator. And what can he do for you?
Thank you. I saw in the news recently on the TV that the former comptroller for Chicago, Amer Ahmad, is in prison in California. Are you his lawyer?
I am, sir.
Okay. And have you spoken to Mayor Rahm Emanuel about the case?
I couldn't comment on that, sir.
Okay, well, what type of case is it?
The case is about Amer Ahmad's father's rights. And thank you for calling, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if anybody is interested in the Fatherhood Educational Institute, the Fatherhood Educational Institute has a fantastic Twitter. You can see it on your screen at Fatherhood EDU. Also a Facebook page, Fatherhood Educational Institute. You can see it right on your television screen. But check out their Twitter. It's fantastic. The next caller, you're on the air. This is Chicago Counterpoint.
Hi there.
What can we do for you?
Yeah, I have a question. My brother was just in a situation where he's in some marital discord, and his wife falsely alleged that he pushed her, and she runs in and gets something called an order of protection, and now he's kicked out of the house. He can't see his kids, and he's using this to falsely charge him and gain advantage in a custody proceeding. What can he do?
Very unfortunate. Attorney Hagler will be glad to provide educational insight concerning this.
Yes, orders of protection generally start on an ex parte basis. In other words, someone goes into court without the other side being there or even having notice and tells the court under oath that there's been domestic violence, then they need protection. That order is then served on the person that allegedly committed that domestic violence, and there's another court date afterwards. I don't know the stage of where your case you're referring to is at, but there's an opportunity for that other parent who's been accused of committing domestic violence to have a full hearing, a trial in other words, on what really happened. And I've done these many times. I think a lot of these are bogus. They're used to get advantage in a custody case, which is exactly what you're saying. So if with preparation and a highly skilled attorney, those things can be denied, and judges generally will deny them if there's a standard of doubt that those allegations are false. So you need to have a highly skilled attorney who has to prepare that case. And often I see allegations like you said someone pushed somebody. What does that have to do with children? Why would the children have to be protected because somebody had some physical contact? I don't get it. Then I would file a motion to remove the children as protected parties so that parent could see the children. What generally it is, the main thing is the parties are living separate and apart, and that's what the judges are trying to get done there if there's going to be an explosive atmosphere. But that doesn't mean that there should be an order of protection, which is very dangerous and can cause you to go to jail later on if you're alleged to have violated it.
Thank you for calling, caller. Our next caller, welcome to Chicago Counterpoint. I'm your host, Attorney Leving, and it's very fortunate to have Attorney James Hagler here. What can he do for you this evening?
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I have a friend who has an arrangement with his ex-girlfriend and the mother of his son that he's had the child in his care for the last year, and now she's saying that she wants the child back and is talking about moving out of state. Is there anything that he can do to keep that from happening?
Well, there is a lot he can do. The first thing he has to do is go into court and file a petition for what we call in Illinois allocation of parental responsibilities, which is the current term for custody. And he has to serve the mother with that, and also with a restraining order that she not remove the child from the stable environment where he is providing. Failure to do that, the mother may have the legal right to pick up that child and take the child someplace. Illinois now has a lot of restrictions about parents taking children outside of the state. But if you don't fight for your rights and you'll sleep on your rights, you'll lose your rights. And there's just way too many people that don't know that they have to go to court. And they should never be afraid to go to court. I believe a lot of judges are very fair to fathers, but if the fathers don't exercise their rights, then they're not going to get what they deserve and be part of their children's lives.
Next caller, Chicago Counterpoint Television with Jeffrey Leving. We have attorney Jim Hagler here to answer your questions this evening. What can we do
hi.
for you?
Thank you. Thank you for taking my call. I just had a question in a situation where if there's child support owing to an ex-wife, for instance, and I've heard that you can possibly lose your driver's license if there's an arrearage amount or if you owe money for child support. What do you do in a situation where you have a job loss and you want to start paying again, but you want to make sure that there's not going to be a problem with a driver's license or any kind of repercussions?
Attorney Hagler will answer your question here, but you can not only lose your driver's license, you can lose your car, you can lose your liberty. But Attorney Hagler here will provide you some educational insight.
If you fall behind in your child support, for example, over $2,000, you can get reported to the Department of Health Care, Family Services, and the Secretary of State, and your driver's license can be suspended. If you owe over $10,000, they can publish your name in a local newspaper, like you're the deadbeat dad. These are very coercive, when I believe uncalled for measures. I can't tell you how many times I've met dads who work out in like the south suburbs and get their driver's licenses suspended, and they have no way of going to work to get back to pay the back child support they owe. How unfair is that? And a judge once said, well, they can take a bus to work. Try taking a bus from a place like Hazel Crest to the FedEx at O'Hare Field. It'll be about 6 hours each day. So these are very nasty remedies the state has. They will work with the child support obligor at least one time to do a repayment plan. If you lose that repayment plan, you don't comply with it, they can suspend your license, and then they'll want all the money you owe, which is a terrible penalty. So we highly recommend you get an attorney, work with them to try to get your suspended licenses restored, and be very careful about payment plans.
Thank you, caller. Looks like we have a lot of callers calling in tonight. We have another caller. And caller, you're on the air, Chicago Counterpoint Television with Jeffrey Leving. Our guest tonight, attorney James Hagler. And what is your
Hello?
question?
Well, my question is this, is that I have kind of a visitation schedule with the mother of my children, and I've kind of noticed that my children's grades have kind of been slipping a little bit, and I don't know why, and I'm really, really concerned about it. Is that, any way I can use that to maybe change the visitation schedule so I can make sure that my children's grades don't go down anymore?
I would say that that's a good reason, but first we have to always investigate the facts when we file something in court. I would urge you first to contact the teachers, make sure you go to the parent-teacher conferences, talk to your children, and find out when do they do their homework, who's helping with their homework. And if you're available, I would file a petition, even if the children are with you for the afternoons or the early evenings, several days a week. File a petition to modify your parenting time. We call it parenting time, not visitation anymore. And get into court and get that right to do the homework with your kids. Sometimes kids do need tutors. These are things parents should discuss. If you're being excluded from making these decisions about your children, like having a tutor, then you need to seek parental responsibilities or custodial rights, say so, to act in the best interests of your children. And I think a lot of judges are very open-minded to parents that care about their kids and want them to be prepared for life and do the best they can at school. So let's give them that opportunity, and I hope you can go to bat and get with your kids more often and help them with their homework.
Thank you.
For calling. We appreciate all the callers and our loyal listening audience, and we appreciate them welcoming us into their homes, into your homes. Next caller, you're on the air, Chicago Counterpoint TV. What can we do for you this evening?
Yes, hi. If a military divorced dad is deployed overseas and he wants someone else from the family to be able to see his daughter, is there such a thing as a substitution of visitation?
Great question for Sergeant Hagler.
Yes, there really is, and I urge every military member that's subject to a deployment, particularly before they deploy, to apply to the court for substitute visitation. It's part of our statute in Illinois, and the court will look for someone who's familiar with the children. I mean, it's typically a grandparent. It could be an aunt or an uncle, but someone to maintain contact with the children or child while the service member's overseas. I also, when you deploy, you do a family service. You do a family plan before you deploy, and the service member should name that person should be involved in any kind of visitation or parenting time while they're away. So they sort of step into the shoes I'm not going to say they get full alternating weekends or anything like that. It just depends on the facts and circumstances. Like a grandparent that's been around, there are two grandparents that have been around in children's lives, they have a very good chance of getting substantial time. So it depends on who it is, but the court will consider it, and they are readily granted, provided that it's in the children's best interest and there's been a relationship there. And it's great for the service member, it's great for the families. And by the way, service members really can establish a lot of virtual visitation. There's a lot of things going on with technology today we didn't have years ago, and FaceTime and all that. So if you're having a problem when you're deployed or in another theater, these are the things you really need to straighten out before you leave. And it's really well received by a court, but you've got to file for it. Thank you, caller.
Thank you. And we do have a law in Illinois concerning virtual visitations. And it can be ordered by the courts, and it can be very valuable for all parents and for children. And if you want any information on this law, which I'm proud to have co-authored, you could always call the Fatherhood Educational Institute for a copy, 312-795-9060. Next caller, you're on the air, Chicago Counterpoint Television with Jeffrey Leving. We have Attorney Hagler here. What can he do for you this evening?
Hi, I'm just trying to get some information about how someone who is currently in jail, how he could adjust his child support that he owes, as he's not getting any income right now.
Great question. It's a very important question, and Attorney Hagler will address that. We only have 5 minutes left, so we're going to probably have to talk quickly. But that's a very, very important question, because I hate to see these dads in prison struggling to get out, and then when they get out, they have to worry about going back to jail for non-payment of support. And there is legislation that I testified in support of in the House of Representatives in Illinois, supporting such legislation, because I believe child support should generally abate, end when a father is incarcerated, because if he's locked up and he can't pay child support, why should he be ordered to pay it? Because all that does is create a very vicious circle of reincarceration upon his release. So it's something that I think is very, very terrible. But Attorney Hagler, if you'd like to address this caller, that would be wonderful.
Well, Mr. Levy, I think you said it all. It's not fair that someone who's incarcerated and has no income can pay child support. So it's not a difficult matter to have a motion filed in court by an attorney asking that the child support be abated or suspended, and it should be readily granted. But you've got to get in court and do it. So there are some other remedies and programs after someone's released that could, some of the arrearages could be forgiven, but it's best not to even get those arrearages in the first place. And by the way, everybody should know that child support arrearages get 9% judgment interest in the state of Illinois. I think it's outrageous, but that's the law. And I know, Jeffrey, you've been trying to get that reduced. And
exactly.
Judges should have
to
discretion.
Zero.
Zero.
Yeah, I mean, a child support order, a judgment gets 9% statutory interest. You can't get that on a CD, in a bank account, in a checking account. To me, it's unconscionable, but it's a reality of life, and that reality needs to change. Very, very important. And again, if anybody, I know we have more callers. I'll try and take another caller, Jim, see if we have time, because the show's almost over. Next caller, you're on Chicago Counterpoint TV. We have to try and talk quickly because the show is coming to an end. You're on the air.
Hello? Oh, hello. I have a question about step-parents. And I have 4 kids, and my ex-husband thinks that he has a right to have the 2 kids that were mine before I got married. He's trying to take those kids and see them, and I don't think he should. Is there anything around that would allow him to do such a thing?
Great question for Attorney Hagler. Very important question. Unfortunately, the show's coming to an end, so Attorney Hagler is probably going to have to give you a short answer.
There's a
Okay.
to file anything in court, to have any legal rights of visitation with children that aren't yours, you have to have standing, and it's very doubtful that he has any legal right. There are step-parents' rights, but they're difficult to win. It depends on the facts and circumstances. Something you really need to talk in detail with an attorney. But thank you, caller. And Jeff, you've had some fantastic callers and some great dads out there I spoke to tonight. Thank you for the opportunity to talk.
And also the caller that called in, to win a case like that, you need a magician like Kathy Delgadillo to win a tough case like that. Because I know that even though it sounds impossible, things can happen if you don't give up hope. Now the show's almost over, and I'm hoping the producer could. There, 3 minutes. Great. Now I can see the sign. So we have 3 minutes left, and this is the former caller has a very important question, and Attorney Hagler is absolutely correct. But sometimes lawyers can win unwinnable cases, and I know Attorney Hagler has won unwinnable cases. The key is never give up hope, never ever give up hope, and keep in mind magic. I shouldn't talk about magic because I don't mean real magic. I'm really trying to talk about hope, not giving up hope. But dreams can come true with great lawyering and creativity, even in the toughest of the toughest cases. CNN recently did a special on Elian Gonzalez, and everyone told me, you'll never be able to help reunite that little boy with his dad in Cuba. It's impossible. Even my mom told me, it's impossible. No, I had lawyers tell me, it's impossible. Well, it wasn't. It wasn't impossible, and I'm proud to have helped reunite Elian Gonzalez with his father in Cuba. So I don't like to give up if there's a glimmer of hope. I'm not a quitter. I don't like to quit. And it's an honor to have Jim Hagler here because he's done great work, and he doesn't give up hope. And he's a brilliant lawyer, and that's why he was chosen by his peers as a best lawyer. And I consider him more than a best lawyer. I consider him a super lawyer because I don't know many lawyers that really care. And he really cares, and he's a fantastic lawyer. Now, if anybody wants any more information on the Fatherhood Educational Institute, check the Fatherhood Educational Institute out. And I'd like to thank Jim Hagler. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you. Thank all your listeners for calling in. And I look forward to coming back again.
I hope so. I'm looking forward to it because I don't know many lawyers in this country like Jim Hagler. He's a great lawyer. He's also a Bowen High School graduate, south side of Chicago. Bowen High School graduate. And I'd like to thank our listening audience. I really appreciate you listening to this show and letting us into your home this evening. And I look forward to seeing everybody here next week, same time, same place, and God bless.